Be my date to the dance, Mafia boss asked a nurse. Unaware, she was a CEO's daughter. She was just a tired nurse returning from work when she heard the words. Be my date. Eleanor Grace froze on the sidewalk, her scrubs wrinkled from a double shift, her silver hair escaping the bun she'd tied 12 hours ago, only for her to look at where the words were coming from. Before her stood a man asking her to be his date. Confused, she stared at him, this stranger in an expensive suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, his dark eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her breath catch. Before we dive into this insane story about a mafia boss who had no idea what he was getting into, drop a comment right now telling me where you're watching from and what time it is. This story is about to get wild, so smash that subscribe button because you do not want to miss how this unfolds. Trust me, this one hits different. Now let's go. Marcus Valentino sat in the leather booth of Luciano's bar, a whiskey glass in his scarred hand, watching the city move outside the tinted windows. At 34, he controlled the entire eastern seaboard's underground operations. The Valentino family didn't just run the streets. They owned them. Drug routes, gambling operations, protection rackets, political corruption, every shadow in this city had his fingerprints on it. He was a ghost who moved billions, a predator who made grown men beg for mercy, a king whose word was absolute law. Tonight he was supposed to be celebrating. His organization had just absorbed 3 rival territories without firing a single shot. Pure strategy, pure dominance, pure power. But Marcus felt nothing. Empty, hollow, like he'd won a war but lost something he couldn't name. He lifted his whiskey, ready to toast his own meaningless victory, when movement outside caught his eye. A woman in blue scrubs walked past the window, exhaustion written in every step. But it was her hair that stopped him cold. Silver. Not gray from age, but silver like moonlight, pulled back in a messy bun that somehow made her look both professional and vulnerable. She paused under a streetlight to adjust her bag, and the light caught her face. Tired. Beautiful. Real. In a world full of plastic surgery and false smiles, this woman looked genuine. Like she'd spent her day saving lives instead of taking them. Like she knew what it meant to care about something other than power and money. Marcus stood abruptly, his 6'3" frame moving before his brain caught up. His lieutenants looked up in surprise. Boss, where are you going? Antonio asked. Out, Marcus said, already walking toward the door. His security team scrambled to follow, but he waved them back. Stay here. This I handle alone. He hit the street, and she was already half a block away, walking toward the bus stop with her shoulders hunched against the October cold. Marcus Valentino, who'd orchestrated hits on 3 continents, who'd negotiated billion-dollar deals with cartels, who'd stared down federal prosecutors without blinking, suddenly felt nervous. He caught up to her in 5 strides. Excuse me, he said, his voice rougher than intended. Eleanor turned, and Marcus saw her eyes up close. Ocean blue, deep enough to drown in. Wary but not afraid. Can I help you? She asked, her hand instinctively moving to the pepper spray in her pocket. Marcus noticed the defensive gesture and took a step back, showing his empty hands. I'm not trying to scare you. He paused, suddenly aware of how insane this was going to sound. I saw you walk past the bar, and I need to ask you something. Okay, Eleanor said slowly, clearly wondering if she should run. There's a gala tomorrow night. Very exclusive, very formal, and I need a date. Be my date, he said, the words tumbling out without the smooth confidence he usually commanded. Eleanor blinked. I'm sorry, what? Be my date to the gala tomorrow. I know this is completely random. I know you don't know me, but something about seeing you tonight, you looked real. And I haven't seen anything real in a very long time. Eleanor stared at this stranger, taking in the expensive suit, the confident posture, the slight accent that suggested old money and darker origins. Are you insane? She asked bluntly. Possibly, Marcus admitted with a slight smile. But I'm also serious. One evening. Dinner, dancing, good conversation. No expectations beyond that. If you're uncomfortable at any point, I'll have you driven home immediately. Why me? Eleanor asked, genuine confusion in her voice. You could have any woman in this city. I don't want any woman in this city, Marcus replied. I want someone who looks like they've spent their day actually doing something that matters. Someone who hasn't been corrupted by this world yet. Someone who still sees people instead of opportunities. Eleanor should have said no. Should have pepper sprayed him and called the police. Should have recognized the danger radiating from this man like heat from a furnace. But something in his eyes stopped her. Loneliness. The same hollow exhaustion she saw in her own mirror every morning. You're either a serial killer or the world's worst pickup artist, she said. Serial killers usually have better social skills, Marcus countered. I'm just a businessman who's tired of fake people at fake events having fake conversations. I thought maybe one real person could make it bearable. Eleanor looked at her phone. She had exactly $47 in her checking account until payday. She'd worked 16 hours today. Her feet hurt. Her back ached. She was going home to a frozen dinner and Netflix alone. Again, what's this gala for? She asked, not committing but not refusing either. Medical research fundraiser, Marcus lied smoothly. It had nothing to do with medical research. It was the annual gathering of the 5 families, where territory was negotiated and alliances were forged. But she didn't need to know that. What time? Eleanor heard herself ask. I'll pick you up at 7. Where do you live? Eleanor gave him the address of the coffee shop 2 blocks from her apartment. Safety first. Smart, Marcus approved. I'm Marcus, by the way. Marcus Valentino. Eleanor, she replied. Eleanor Grace. Marcus's expression flickered for a microsecond. Grace. As in Richard Grace? You know my father? Eleanor asked, suddenly wary. Everyone knows Richard Grace, Marcus said carefully. Grace Medical Industries supplies half the hospitals in the country. Eleanor's walls went up immediately. If you're trying to get to my father through me, this conversation is over. I have nothing to do with his business. I'm a nurse, not a corporate asset. I don't want to get to your father, Marcus said honestly. I didn't even know you were his daughter until you said your name. And honestly, it doesn't change anything. You're still the woman who looked real in a city full of fake. You're still the person I want to spend tomorrow evening with. Eleanor studied him, her nurse's instincts reading his body language, looking for the lie. She found none. One evening, she said finally, dinner and dancing. And if you turn out to be a psychopath, I know 17 different ways to cause you extreme pain with household objects. Marcus laughed, a genuine sound that surprised them both. Deal. 7 o'clock tomorrow. Wear something formal. The event is black tie. Eleanor nodded and turned toward the bus stop. Marcus watched her go, this silver-haired nurse who had no idea she'd just agreed to attend the most dangerous gathering in the criminal underworld. What are you doing? He asked himself. Bringing an innocent civilian into his world was reckless, stupid, dangerous. But something about Eleanor Grace made him want to be something other than what he was, even if just for one night. He returned to the bar where his lieutenants were waiting. Boss, who was that? Antonio asked. Nobody, Marcus said. Just someone I'm taking to the gala tomorrow. You're bringing an outsider to the 5 families gathering? Carlo exploded. Are you insane? Maybe, Marcus said calmly. But it's happening. Spread the word. Anyone who disrespects her answers to me personally. The lieutenants exchanged worried looks, but nodded. When Marcus Valentino made a decision, you didn't argue. You obeyed. What they didn't know was that across town, Eleanor Grace was having a similar conversation with her father on the phone. A man asked you to a gala? Richard Grace demanded. Who? What's his name? His name is Marcus Valentino, Eleanor said. Do you know him? The silence on the other end was deafening. Eleanor, her father said slowly, his voice tight with fear. Marcus Valentino is the head of the Valentino crime family. He's Mafia, sweetheart. Organized crime. That's impossible, Eleanor protested. He said it was a medical research fundraiser. He lied, her father said. That gala is where the crime families gather once a year. Eleanor, you cannot go. You have no idea how dangerous. I already said yes, Eleanor interrupted. And I'm going. One evening won't kill me. That's exactly what it might do, her father said. These people don't play games, Eleanor. They destroy anyone who gets in their way. I'll be careful, Eleanor said. But I'm 28 years old and I make my own decisions. She hung up before her father could argue further. What had she just agreed to? Marcus Valentino stood in front of his bedroom mirror adjusting his bow tie for the 3rd time, something he never did. His hands that had pulled triggers without trembling, hands that had signed death warrants without hesitation, were actually shaking. Antonio leaned against the doorframe, watching his boss unravel like he'd never seen before. You're nervous, Antonio observed, barely hiding his amusement. About a woman. Shut up, Marcus growled, but there was no real heat in it. Boss, It's not too late to cancel this insanity. Bring Sophia or Gabriella. They know the game. They understand the rules. They're safe. I don't want safe, Marcus said, finally getting the tie right. I want real. And Eleanor is real. She's also the daughter of Richard Grace, Carlo added from the hallway. The man who testified against the Moretti family 5 years ago. The man who's been crusading for stricter oversight of medical supply chains to cut off our pharmaceutical operations. You're bringing his daughter to a room full of people who want him dead. Marcus's jaw clenched because Carlo was right. Richard Grace had been a thorn in their side for years, using his legitimate business empire to expose and disrupt criminal operations. Half the families at tonight's gala had active contracts out on information about Grace's vulnerabilities. And Marcus was about to walk in with his daughter on his arm. This is either brilliance or suicide, Antonio muttered. Maybe both, Marcus admitted. But it's happening. The car is ready. Let's go. They drove to the coffee shop where Eleanor had told him to meet her, Marcus's security detail following in 2 separate vehicles. When Eleanor emerged from the shop, Marcus felt his breath stop. She wore a deep emerald gown that somehow matched her ocean eyes, her silver hair styled in elegant waves that caught the streetlight like liquid mercury. She was stunning, not in the artificial way of the women who usually orbited his world, but in a way that was natural and devastating. She's going to get you killed, Antonio whispered. Worth it, Marcus replied, stepping out to greet her. You look incredible, Marcus said, offering his hand. You look terrified, Eleanor countered, taking it anyway. Should I be worried? Only if you hate champagne and terrible small talk, Marcus lied smoothly. The drive to the Belmore estate took 20 minutes. Eleanor watched the city give way to private roads and massive gates, her nurse's salary suddenly feeling very small. This is quite a fundraiser, she said carefully. Only the best for medical research, Marcus replied, the lie tasting bitter on his tongue. When they arrived, Eleanor's breath caught. The estate was massive. Hundreds of people in designer gowns and tuxedos. Waiters with champagne. A full orchestra. Security everywhere. This doesn't look like a medical research event, Eleanor said slowly, her instincts screaming warnings. This looks like something else entirely. Before Marcus could respond, a voice cut through the crowd like a blade. Well. Marcus Valentino brought a date. How absolutely fascinating. They turned to see Dante Salvatore approaching, the head of the Salvatore family and Marcus's primary rival. At 42, Dante was old-school mafia, brutal and traditional, and he hated Marcus's modern approach to business. And who is this beautiful creature? Dante asked, his eyes raking over Eleanor in a way that made Marcus's hands clench into fists. Eleanor Grace, Marcus said coldly. My date. And you'll address her with respect, or we'll have a problem. Grace? Dante's eyes lit up with malicious recognition. As in Richard Grace? The CEO who's been making our pharmaceutical operations hell for 5 years? Marcus, you beautiful idiot. Do you have any idea what you've just done? What's he talking about? Eleanor asked, stepping back. Marcus, what is this place? Who are these people? Before Marcus could answer, Dante laughed. She doesn't know. Oh, this is perfect. You brought Richard Grace's daughter to the 5 Families Gala, and she has no idea who you really are. Tell her, Marcus. Tell her what you do for a living. Marcus's jaw clenched. Eleanor, we need to talk. Privately. Now. No, Dante interrupted, his voice carrying across the room. Everyone needs to hear this. Everyone. The music stopped. Conversations died. Hundreds of eyes turned toward them. Eleanor Grace, Dante announced loudly. Let me be the first to welcome you to the annual gathering of the East Coast's most powerful crime families. Your date, Marcus Valentino, is the head of the Valentino organization. Drugs, weapons, gambling, murder for hire. And your father has been their biggest enemy for the past 5 years. The blood drained from Eleanor's face. Your Mafia? She whispered, staring at Marcus. You lied to me. This isn't a medical fundraiser. This is a mistake, Marcus said, reaching for her. Eleanor, please let me explain. Don't touch me, Eleanor shouted, backing away. The entire ballroom watched in silence. You lied. You brought me here knowing what? That I'm leverage? That I'm a bargaining chip? That my father is your enemy? I didn't know who you were when I asked you, Marcus said desperately. I swear. I saw you on the street, and I just wanted one evening with someone real. I didn't plan this. But you found out, Eleanor said, her voice breaking. You knew before you picked me up tonight, and you brought me here anyway. Into a room full of criminals who want to hurt my father. What were you thinking? He was thinking with his heart instead of his head. Dante interjected with a cruel smile. How absolutely weak. And how absolutely useful for the rest of us. You see, Eleanor, your presence here tonight just became very valuable. Every family in this room has reason to want information about your father. His security details, his travel schedule, his vulnerabilities. And you, his daughter, just walked into our world wearing a pretty dress. Marcus moved between Eleanor and Dante with lethal speed. If anyone touches her, anyone even looks at her wrong, I will burn your entire organization to the ground. Is that clear? Very clear, Dante said. But the question is, how many families are you willing to go to war with to protect one woman? Because I'm guessing at least 3 families here are already making plans. Eleanor looked around the ballroom and saw the truth in the predatory eyes watching her. These weren't businessmen. These were wolves. And she was bleeding in their den. I need to leave, Eleanor said, her voice shaking. Right now? I'll take you home, Marcus said immediately. No, Eleanor said firmly. I don't want you anywhere near me. I'll call a cab. I'll have you driven, Marcus insisted. By my most trusted people. You're not safe alone. I wasn't safe the moment I agreed to go out with you, Eleanor snapped. You brought me into hell and didn't warn me. You used me. I did into you, Marcus said, his voice raw with emotion. I wanted one evening with someone who saw me as human instead of a monster. I wanted to feel normal for a few hours. Well, congratulations, Eleanor said, tears streaming down her face. You feel like a monster to me now, too. She turned and ran toward the exit. Marcus started to follow, but Antonio grabbed his arm. Boss, let her go. If you chase her now, every family here will see it as weakness. They'll target her to get to you. She's already a target, Marcus snarled. Because I brought her here. Because I was selfish and stupid and now she's in danger because of me. So yes, I'm going after her. He shoved through the crowd and found Eleanor in the circular driveway, trying to call a cab with shaking hands. Her phone wasn't working. The estate's signal jammers were active, standard security protocol. Eleanor, Marcus said gently, approaching slowly like she was a frightened animal. Please, let me get you home safely. Then you never have to see me again. Why should I trust you? Eleanor asked, her mascara running, her perfect evening destroyed. You've done nothing but lie since the moment we met. I lied about the gala, Marcus admitted. But I didn't lie about why I asked you. I saw someone real in a world full of fake. Someone who still had light in her eyes. Someone who made me remember what it felt like to want to be better than what I am. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I put you in danger. But please, let me fix this. Let me get you home safe. Eleanor looked at this man, this criminal, and saw genuine anguish in his eyes. Against every instinct, against all logic, some part of her believed he was telling the truth. Fine, she said coldly. But after tonight, we're done. You stay away from me. You stay away from my father. You stay out of my life. Agreed, Marcus said, though the word felt like swallowing glass. His driver brought the car around, and they rode in silence back to the city. But as they pulled away from the estate, neither of them noticed the black sedan that began following at a distance. Dante Salvatore sat in the back seat, phone pressed to his ear, smiling like a shark. Follow them, he ordered. Find out exactly where Richard Grace's daughter lives. And then we're going to send Marcus Valentino a message he'll never forget. Marcus's car pulled up to Eleanor's apartment building at 10:47 p.m., the silence between them heavy enough to suffocate. Eleanor reached for the door handle, but Marcus's voice stopped her cold. Wait, he said urgently. Just wait 1 minute. For what? More lies? Eleanor snapped, but she didn't open the door. Marcus pulled out his phone and made a call, his eyes scanning the street with the practiced awareness of someone who'd survived 20 years in a world where mistakes meant death. Tony, I need a full security detail on Eleanor's building. Now. For men minimum. Rotating shifts. Nobody gets within 50 feet of her without clearance. What are you doing? Eleanor asked, alarm creeping into her voice. Keeping you alive, Marcus said bluntly. The moment Dante Salvatore saw you tonight, you became a target. He'll use you to get to your father or to get to me. Maybe both. I don't need your protection, Eleanor protested. I need you out of my life. You needed to be out of my life the second I saw you, Marcus said, his voice raw with frustration and something deeper. But I was selfish. I wanted one night of something real, and now you're in danger because of my weakness. So whether you like it or not, whether you hate me or not, I'm making sure you survive my mistake." He turned to face her fully, his dark eyes intense. "Starting tomorrow, there will be men watching your building. You won't see them, but they'll be there. If anyone approaches you, anyone you don't know, you call this number immediately." He pressed a card into her hand. "That's my direct line. 24/7. No matter what time. No matter what day. You call and I answer." "I don't want your number," Eleanor said, but she didn't throw the card away. "I want my normal life back. The life I had before a mafia boss decided to drag me into his nightmare." "That life is gone," Marcus said, and the finality in his voice sent chills down her spine. "The moment you walked into that gala on my arm, everything changed. Dante Salvatore doesn't forget. Neither do the other families. You're a Grace, and you're connected to me now. That makes you valuable. That makes you pray." Eleanor felt tears building again, but refused to let them fall. "This is insane. I'm a nurse. I save lives. I don't belong in this world of criminals and violence, and you don't," Marcus interrupted. "You're right. You're everything good that people like me destroy. But right now, the only thing keeping you safe is that those criminals know hurting you means war with me. So please, Eleanor, please, take the card. Let me protect you, even if you never speak to me again." Eleanor looked at the card, then at Marcus, then at the quiet street that suddenly felt full of invisible threats. "Fine," she said, pocketing the card. "But this doesn't mean I forgive you. It doesn't mean we're anything. It just means I'm not stupid enough to refuse protection when my life is actually in danger because of your choices." "Fair enough," Marcus said, though the words cut deeper than any blade. His phone buzzed. Tony reporting in. "Boss, we've got a problem. There's a black sedan 3 blocks back. Been following us since the estate. Salvatore's people." Marcus's expression went from concern to lethal in a heartbeat. "How many?" "2 in the car. Possibly more in the area. We're running counter-surveillance now." Marcus looked at Eleanor and made a decision that would change everything. "You're not going to your apartment tonight." "Why not?" Eleanor demanded. "Because they followed us," Marcus said, his voice hard. "They know where you live now. If you go inside, you're a sitting duck. They'll wait until I leave and then." He didn't finish, but Eleanor understood. "Where am I supposed to go?" "My father's house. That's the first place they'll watch." "You're coming with me," Marcus said. "To my private residence. It's the most secure location in the city." "Absolutely not," Eleanor protested. "I'm not going anywhere with you." "You don't have a choice," Marcus said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Right now, staying with me is the safest option you have. My home has security that makes Fort Knox look like a playground. Guards, cameras, safe rooms, everything you need to be protected while I figure out how to fix this." "This is kidnapping," Eleanor said, but her voice wavered because she could see the fear in Marcus's eyes. "Not for himself. For her." "This is survival," Marcus corrected. "And I'm not asking anymore. I'm telling you. You're under my protection until this situation is neutralized." He told his driver to take them to his private estate, not the penthouse downtown, but his actual home that almost nobody knew about. They drove for 40 minutes, taking random turns and doubling back multiple times to lose the tail. Finally, they arrived at a gated property in the hills, surrounded by walls and discreet security measures that Eleanor only noticed because she was looking for them. "This is where you live?" Eleanor asked as they passed through the 3rd security checkpoint. "When I want to disappear," Marcus confirmed. "Only my most trusted people know about this place. You're safe here." They entered a house that was surprisingly normal. Not the ostentatious mansion she'd expected, but a comfortable home with warm lighting and actual furniture that looked lived in. Books on shelves, photos on walls, a kitchen that showed signs of actual use. "You cook?" Eleanor asked, surprised despite herself, seeing the well-stocked kitchen. "Sometimes," Marcus admitted, "when I need to think. There's something centering about creating something instead of destroying it." Eleanor didn't want to find him human, didn't want to see him as anything other than the criminal who'd lied to her. But standing in his kitchen, seeing the evidence of a life beyond violence, she felt her anger wavering. "The guest room is upstairs," Marcus said. "Second door on the left. Everything you need should be there. Clothes, toiletries, whatever. My housekeeper keeps it stocked. I'll be in my office making calls. If you need anything at all, just ask." Eleanor nodded and headed upstairs, her mind spinning. The guest room was beautiful, comfortable, safe, and she hated that she felt relieved to be here instead of terrified. Downstairs, Marcus gathered his top lieutenants on a conference call. "I want to know everything about Dante's movements," Marcus ordered. "Where he went after the gala, who he's contacted, what he's planning, and I want countermeasures in place immediately." "Boss," Antonio said carefully, "is one woman really worth going to war over?" "She's not just one woman," Marcus said quietly. "She's the first real thing I've felt in 20 years. So yes, she's worth burning the entire city down if that's what it takes to keep her safe." In another part of the city, Dante Salvatore sat in his office reviewing the photos his people had taken. Eleanor Grace entering Marcus Valentino's vehicle. Eleanor Grace at Marcus's secret estate. Eleanor Grace, the daughter of their enemy, now under the protection of the most dangerous man in the city. "This is perfect," Dante said, smiling at the images. Marcus Valentino has finally shown his weakness. He cares about this woman. And caring makes you vulnerable. He made another call. "I want surveillance on every entrance to Valentino's estate. I want to know everyone who comes and goes. And I want a message sent to Richard Grace. Tell him his daughter is currently residing with the head of the Valentino crime family. Let's see how long it takes for Daddy to come rescue her." The call was made. Within an hour, Richard Grace's phone rang with information that made his blood run cold. His daughter wasn't just at a gala with a criminal. She was living with him, protected by him, held by him. Richard made his own calls. To his lawyers, to his security team, and to contacts in law enforcement that owed him favors. If Marcus Valentino thought he could use Eleanor as a pawn, he was about to learn what happened when you threatened a father's child. Upstairs in the guest room, Eleanor couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling thinking about how her life had gone from normal to insane in less than 24 hours. Her phone buzzed. Her father. "Baby girl, are you safe? Where are you?" "I'm fine, Dad," Eleanor lied. "I'm at a friend's house." "Don't lie to me," Richard said, his voice tight. "I know you're with Marcus Valentino. I know you're at his estate. And I'm coming to get you." "No," Eleanor said quickly. "Dad, please. Don't make this worse. If you come here, if you bring police or security or anything, it's going to escalate into violence. Just let me handle this." "Let you handle it?" Richard exploded. "Eleanor, he's Mafia. He's dangerous. He's the enemy of everything I've built my career fighting against." "I know what he is," Eleanor said quietly. "But Dad, he's also the only reason I'm alive right now. Other families are targeting me because I'm your daughter. Marcus is protecting me from them. So please, just trust me for once. Let me figure this out." Richard was silent for a long moment. "If he hurts you, if he uses you, if he does anything, I will destroy him. I will use every resource I have to burn his organization to the ground." "I know," Eleanor said. "But right now he's keeping me safe. That has to be enough." She hung up before her father could argue further. But Eleanor didn't know that her father had no intention of waiting. Richard Grace was already mobilizing resources for war. And Marcus Valentino, standing in his office listening to the security feed, heard every word of Eleanor's conversation and realized something terrifying. He wasn't just protecting Eleanor from rival families anymore. He was about to face her father, a man with legitimate power, legal resources, and the absolute determination to save his daughter from the monster he thought was holding her captive. 3 days passed like a powder keg waiting for a spark. Eleanor remained at Marcus's estate, her life suspended in this strange limbo between protection and imprisonment. She worked remotely, reviewing patient charts and doing telehealth consultations from the guest room, trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy while armed guards patrolled outside. Marcus kept his distance, respecting her space, but always there. She'd catch glimpses of him in the hallway, hear his voice on phone calls coordinating her security, find coffee waiting for her each morning, prepared exactly how she liked it, even though she'd never told him. Small gestures that shouldn't have mattered, but somehow did. On the 4th morning, everything exploded. Eleanor was in the kitchen making breakfast when Marcus burst through the door, his face darker than she'd ever seen it. "We have a problem," he said, pulling up security footage on his tablet. "Your father just held a press conference." Eleanor watched in horror as her father stood before cameras, his face carved from stone and fury. "My daughter, Eleanor Grace, has been taken by Marcus Valentino, head of the Valentino crime family," Richard announced to the world. "She is being held against her will at an undisclosed location." I am offering a $10 million reward for information leading to her safe return, and I am calling on law enforcement at every level to treat this as the kidnapping it is. No, Eleanor whispered, her coffee cup slipping from her hands and shattering on the floor. No, 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 what is he doing? He just declared war, Marcus said grimly. Not just on me, but on the careful balance that keeps this city from tearing itself apart. Every law enforcement agency in 6 states is about to descend on my operations. Every rival family is about to see this as opportunity to strike while I'm distracted. And your father just painted a target on both our backs that's visible from space. I need to call him, Eleanor said, reaching for her phone. I need to tell him I'm here by choice, that you're protecting me, that this isn't kidnapping. It's too late, Marcus said, his phone exploding with calls. The story is already everywhere. And even if you go on camera right now, half the world will think I've forced you to say it. Your father just made this a public spectacle, and public spectacles don't end quietly. They end in blood. Marcus answered his phone. Tony's voice came through panicked. Boss, we've got FBI setting up outside the downtown offices. Local PD raiding 3 of our businesses. And Salvatore just hit 2 of our shipments while we're distracted. He's using this chaos to move on our territory. How many men do we have at the estate? Marcus demanded. 20, but boss, if the FBI traces Eleanor's location here, they'll come with SWAT teams and warrants. We'll be outgunned and exposed. Then we move, Marcus decided. Now, we take Eleanor somewhere even more secure, and we do it before law enforcement triangulates our position. You're not moving me anywhere, Eleanor said, her voice rising. I'm calling my father right now and ending this insanity before people die because of a misunderstanding. She dialed. Richard answered on the first ring. Eleanor, baby, where are you? Are you hurt? Has he? I'm fine. Dad, Eleanor interrupted. I'm completely safe. Marcus isn't holding me hostage. He's protecting me from rival families who want to use me against you. You need to retract that press conference right now before this becomes a war. I'm not retracting anything, Richard said firmly. Eleanor, you've been brainwashed. You've been manipulated by a career criminal who's using you. I'm coming to get you, and I'm bringing every resource I have. Dad, please, Eleanor begged. If you do this, people will die. Marcus's people. Your people. Innocent people caught in the crossfire. Just trust me for once in my life. I can't, Richard said, and his voice broke. I can't trust a monster with my daughter. I'm sorry, baby, but this ends today. The line went dead. Eleanor stared at her phone, tears streaming down her face. He won't listen. He thinks I'm some helpless victim who needs rescuing, when the only thing I need rescuing from is everyone's need to rescue me. Marcus watched her fall apart and felt something crack inside his chest. The walls he'd spent decades building. The armor that kept him cold and calculated and alive in a world that killed soft men. All of it crumbling because this silver-haired nurse with ocean eyes had reminded him what it felt like to care. I can end this, Marcus said quietly. Eleanor looked up. How? I can turn myself in, Marcus said. Walk into FBI headquarters with my hands up. Confess to enough crimes to put me away for life. Your father gets his victory. You get your freedom. The families lose their reason to target you because I'm neutralized. Everyone wins except me. You'd go to prison? Eleanor asked, shocked. For life? To keep you safe? Yes, Marcus said simply. Without hesitation. Without regret. Because you were right that first night. You don't belong in my world. You're everything good, and I'm everything that destroys good things. So I'll remove myself from the equation and give you back the life I stole. Eleanor stood, her legs shaking, and walked to where Marcus stood by the window. She looked at this man, this criminal, who was offering to sacrifice everything to protect her. You're an idiot, she said softly. I'm aware, Marcus replied. But I'm an idiot who's in love with you. And I know you could never love me back. I know I'm exactly the kind of man you should run from. But if my life can buy your safety, it's a trade I'll make without thinking twice. Eleanor reached up and grabbed his face with both hands, forcing him to meet her eyes. You don't get to make that choice for me, she said fiercely. You don't get to decide what I feel, or what I want, or what I'm willing to fight for. I've spent my entire life having people make decisions for me. My father controlling my choices. Derek trying to control my career. Everyone treating me like I'm too fragile to handle reality. But I'm not fragile, Marcus. I'm a nurse who's held dying patients' hands. who's worked double shifts in emergency rooms, who's seen humanity at its worst, and still shows up every day choosing to help instead of hurt. What are you saying? Marcus asked, hardly daring to hope. I'm saying I see you, Eleanor said. Not the mafia boss. Not the criminal. But the man who asked a tired nurse to dance because he was lonely. The man who makes coffee every morning even though I won't speak to him. The man who's willing to sacrifice everything to keep me safe. And I'm saying that somewhere in the past 4 days of being furious with you, I fell in love with you too. Marcus's breath stopped. You can't. You shouldn't. I know I shouldn't, Eleanor said, tears and laughter mixing in her voice. But I do. And I'm not letting you throw your life away without a fight. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to face my father together. We're going to face the FBI together. We're going to figure out how to end this war together. Because that's what people do when they love each other. They don't sacrifice themselves dramatically. They fight. Together. Before Marcus could respond, the security system blared. Tony's voice came through urgent and panicked. Boss, we've got vehicles approaching from 3 directions. FBI, local SWAT, and what looks like private security. Your time just ran out. Marcus grabbed Eleanor's hand. The safe room. Now. No more running, Eleanor said firmly. We face this. Together. Remember? Marcus looked at this woman, this impossible woman who'd walked into his life and changed everything, and made a decision. He pulled out his phone and called someone he'd sworn he'd never contact. This is Marcus Valentino, he said when the line connected. I'm calling to negotiate my surrender in exchange for immunity for Eleanor Grace and a meeting with Richard Grace. Full transparency. Full cooperation. But it happens on MY terms with Eleanor present to verify she's here by choice. The FBI agent on the other end was silent for 3 seconds. Then agreed. They walked outside together, hand in hand, to face the wall of law enforcement and her father's security team. Richard Grace stood at the front, his face a mask of rage until he saw Eleanor walking freely, her hand in Marcus's, but clearly not restrained or harmed. Dad, Eleanor called out. Stand down. I'm not a hostage. I'm here because I choose to be. Richard's expression cracked. Eleanor, baby, you don't understand what he is. I understand exactly what he is, Eleanor said, walking forward. He's a criminal who's done terrible things. He's also the man who's kept me alive for 4 days while rival families tried to use me against you. He's complicated and contradictory and dangerous. But he's also mine. And I'm his. And you're going to have to accept that. Over my dead body, Richard started, but Eleanor cut him off. Then I guess you'll have to shoot me, Dad, because I'm not leaving him. Not today. Not ever. You want to arrest Marcus? Fine. But you'll have to arrest me too because we're a package deal now. The standoff lasted 30 seconds that felt like hours. Then Richard Grace did something nobody expected. He laughed. A broken, exhausted sound. You're just like your mother, he said, tears in his eyes. Stubborn. Impossible. Loving people who make terrible life choices. She fell in love with a soldier everyone said would get killed. I fell in love with a CEO everyone said was too ambitious. And you fell in love with a mafia boss. God help us all. 3 months of negotiations followed. Marcus provided testimony that brought down Dante Salvatore and 2 other families. In exchange, he received immunity on specific charges and agreed to transition his organization away from violent crimes into legitimate businesses. It wasn't redemption. It wasn't clean. But it was a start. Eleanor stood by him through every deposition, every threat, every moment when the old Marcus wanted to solve problems with violence instead of strategy. And slowly, impossibly, they built something real. 2 years later, Eleanor and Marcus stood in a small chapel surrounded by an impossible collection of guests. Nurses and former criminals. FBI agents and reformed mobsters. Richard Grace and Antonio. All of them witnesses to a love story that shouldn't have worked, but somehow did. As Marcus slid the ring onto Eleanor's finger, he whispered words only she could hear. You saved me. Not from prison or death or my enemies. From becoming the monster I thought I had to be. Eleanor smiled. Her silver hair gleaming in the sunlight streaming through the windows. We saved each other, she corrected. Now kiss me before my father changes his mind about not shooting you. Marcus laughed and kissed his wife, this nurse who'd been brave enough to see the man behind the monster. To love him not despite his darkness, but through it. To stand beside him when the whole world said she should run. Their story wasn't a fairy tale. It was real, complicated, sometimes painful, but it was theirs. And that was enough. Eleanor Grace and Marcus Valentino proved that love doesn't always make sense, but it always requires courage. A tired nurse and a mafia boss built something impossible by choosing each other over and over again, even when the world said they were wrong. Sometimes the greatest love stories are the ones that shouldn't work, but do because both people are willing to fight for each other instead of giving up. Real love isn't safe or easy, but it's always worth it. Smash that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment telling me if you believe in second chances and impossible love. Share this story with everyone who needs to know that love can transform even the darkest hearts. This is the content that reminds us that nobody is beyond redemption when someone sees their humanity. Don't miss our next story.